You guys probably know the value of a good mix critique, right? You go to these Facebook groups and these forums, you post your mix and you hope to get some valuable insight that's going to help you take your mix to another level. Well, I've got a special treat for you. In today's video, my man Nico Baymans from Mix Like the Pros, my 90-day coaching program, he agreed to let me share a recent mix critique that I did for him. And there's a ton of general stuff that you guys are going to be able to take and apply to your own mixes. Concepts for checking your low end, for adjusting brightness, for referencing, all kinds of good stuff in here. And Nico kindly shared or allowed me to share it with you here on the channel. Now, I don't want to butcher the band's name, but I've got a link to their Facebook page in the description below. And also my man Nico, he's got a link for you guys. If you go check out his website, he's got a free cheat sheet, some really great stuff there. And I want to show him some love for sharing this on the channel with us. But I'm going to show a real quick before and after sample, before the critique, so you can hear his mix as he submitted it to me and what you'll hear in the video, and then the after and the improvements that he made. And then I'll put a link maybe to SoundCloud where I'll upload that so you guys can go download it and check it out for yourselves as well. But check this out. Enjoy it. Feel free to share it. If you want information on the coaching program, there's a description in the link below, and we'll catch you guys soon. Nico, what's up, bro? I hope you're doing awesome. We're going to dive right into this, man. We're going to kick it off. Great mix. Incredible stuff. I love the power in your low end. The balances are great. You've got an incredible blend here. Most of what I'm going to talk to you about, believe it or not, is going to be in the super top end stuff, 7, 10K, 12K, that kind of stuff. And then your mid-range. So without further ado, let's dive in. Again, I love the power in your low end. The bottom was great. If I had one note to give you about your bottom end, it would be that the kick, it feels like there's a tilt EQ and there's this kind of thing. You've got bottom end in your kick, you've got subs, but I'm missing, I feel like that 70 to 100 hertz, the punch kind of zone. I call that zone 2 of the low end. I think we talked about that before. But I would go pull up a bell EQ. It's not working for me just because there's so much going on, the low end energy or whatever. I would pull up in a bell on your kick drum. I would go through and I would listen, not 40, 50 hertz, but find something in that 60, 70, 80, 100 range. Whatever's going to help it just kind of hit a little more powerful there. Compared to the reference tracks, that's something that stood out to me. And it feels like it's like a tilt EQ where the click and the kick is dominating the kick sound. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that's metal, but I reference metal. I grew up listening to hardcore, punk, metal, you name it. And I pulled up even just like a radio rock kind of thing, an Amberlin track, and listened to the difference between Amberlin, your reference track, and then your mix in the click and the kick, and then the bottom end down here. We'll look at the click first. Actually, let's come over here. Let's throw this EQ down here, and we'll start with the click and the kick by taking all the bottom end out. Something like that. Let's check this out. That your reference track is definitely got a more top end kick, whereas the Amberlin track is like in the 1 to 5K range. But they're both fairly balanced, fairly similar. Now let's check out yours. Yours is sticking out quite a bit, right? And so by referencing and just removing all the mid-range in the bottom, just focusing on that frequency range up top, you can really hear how the balance of your kick top end is significantly louder than the reference tracks. Now let's take a look at that punch range. No, real quick, so how do you fix that? I want you to go and look at your kick track and see, for your click, are you boosting 7, 8 dB? Are you doing something like this? You see me do it. I know you do it. The guys nail the mix. You go find your click and the kick frequencies and you kind of boost whatever it is that you want. If you're boosting a lot, I would go in there and just kind of pull those down a little bit and then listen again. The other thing you could do is just take a shelf EQ and just kind of pull all this kind of stuff back and then compare yours to the reference tracks. Just get a better balance for your click and your kick. This wasn't even meant to be the start of it, but now let's take a look at that bottom end and let's see if you can hear what I'm talking about down there. Here's the references. Now, I'm not talking about subs. I like where your subs are at. I prefer more subs like you have. Both of them went kind of radio rock, not as much power in the bottom end. We've got our subs packs. We can feel that stuff down there, and I love it, and I love your low end. I'm just talking about this range between 60, 65, up to 100. I want to say it's going to be like in the 70 to 80, somewhere in there to 100 range, but let's take a listen and see what we can find out. The Amberlin track, the kick is a little more pokey, higher tuned maybe, not quite as much bottom as the reference. I like the reference better. Now let's check yours. I like it. So now I think what it is, it's that tilt. It's that impression of the kick being thin because your kick click is louder than the kick subs or the punch in the kick. And so almost like that tilt EQ kind of thing. I'd almost like to hear you do this. If I were working on this, I would try this first. I would go to your kick track and I would try this shelf EQ. I do this all the time and pull that back until it kind of takes the kick from being super bright and top end and just kind of balances out the level between the click and the punch. Then what I would do is I would adjust the volume to taste, and I may even end up pulling that up a couple dB or so that the overall kick level then comes up to match the reference tracks. But your kick click definitely stood out to me. It was a little louder, and I feel like we could tame that and improve the mix. So that was one thing. Let me see, my notes went away here. That was all for the bottom end. So now let's talk about 7K and above. I did an EQ match. I was like, the first thing that I heard after I calibrated my monitors and I listened was your super top end stuff felt a little bit aggressive, a little bit too much. And then I did an EQ match and go figure, boom, right in there. 10K, that whole region up in there, significantly brighter than the reference track. So one more time, let's take a listen to this. So much easier to listen to. Now, forget about the rest of it for now. Just pay attention to the top end. It's sort of like putting a blanket over the speakers, but in a good way. In a way that kind of controls it and muffles it, just kind of tames it a bit. Now, brighter and louder is better, right? We hear that and we think it's better. But when you reference, take a listen to theirs. Woo! That super bright top end stuff is sizzling on yours. Let's check out the Amberlin track. And it's like you're putting a blanket on the speakers when you shift to the reference track. So what I want to do is I want to encourage you to go into your guitars, your cymbals, anything that's living up there that, let me see if I can. I think guitars and cymbals is it. I don't know that the vocal is too bright. Maybe after you tame the cymbals and the guitars, give a listen to the vocal, maybe pull back a little bit of that super top end stuff. But I think that's going to help you out a ton to kind of pull you in. Now you're going to have power in the bottom end. You're not going to be too sizzly on top. And then that moves me to the next note, which is about your mid-range. So your mid-range, your mix is very scooped, and so you're missing a lot of that. I feel like you could get more low mids and more power in that 100 to 400 hertz, but the biggest thing that I feel like you're missing is this guy right here. In your guitars, we're missing the mid-range. Like the guitars are all about the mid-range, right? I know CLA and boosting 100 hertz, and I love the power and the cab sound in your guitars, but I'm missing that cutting, like, aggressiveness in the guitars in that 1K range there. And being that they're out on the sides, we can get a ton more of it. So let me put this back down to 0 here, and let's kind of feel this out. This is going to be difficult in like a mastering situation, but for you, I would love to see you go to your guitar's bus or bus all your guitars to a bus and then just kind of massage this EQ here. The guitars almost disappear when I bypass this EQ. Now, I know it's making it louder, but it's just on the sides, at least for that one band. This one needs to go out on the side as well. But that mid-range there, that's the good stuff in the guitars, right? I know the 1K or the 100 hertz and the 8K is CLA's little thing there, but I'm telling you, the mid-range, listen to these mixes. It's like someone took a giant ice cream scoop and just went down the middle of your frequency range and just scooped all of it out. That's such a cheesy way to say it, but dang it, man. I feel like if you go in here and you massage those guitars and get you some mid-range going, it's going to cut, it's going to sound awesome, and it's going to bring this into the 21st century here, my man. So, I'm not sure, I'm just spitting out comments now. But that mid-range, go check it out. You can see those ranges there, 500 hertz, 800, 1K, wide bells, get that energy up in the guitars, and let's see those come to life. I want to see the kick we talked about the kick and the punch. Some warmth in the 100 to 400. I almost wonder if that's mostly, it might not just be guitars. Let's get rid of that guy and let's pull this open. I'll tell you what, let's get rid of that. I want to hear it with just this kind of thing here. And then we're going to go, what am I doing? Is it this one? Is it these two? I forget the keyboard command. Just want to do this. Enhance that a little bit. Let's see what we get here. I'm telling you what, man. Smaller speakers is where this is going to be very evident. If you listen to your mix on smaller speakers, I wonder if I have an emulation. I'll hear it. If I do this over here, I'll hear it, but you won't. If I go to like simulate and go to the, the NS10s. Yeah, that's huge. So I would ask, let's see, if you've got smaller speakers, I can't remember what your setup is. I would reference your mix on smaller speakers, and yours is probably going to sound significantly smaller and thinner than the reference tracks here. So that's that frequency range all in there. The 100 to 400 range there could definitely use some love. Watch without it. You can see it in the analyzer, how it kind of dips there. Very scoop. So check theirs out. Okay, now the vocals, for sure, I feel like they need to come up, but this frequency range right in there, they need some love there too. Let's see what happens if so that's mid-band. Get some 1K in your vocal, man. Come on. All right, so warmth, take a look at that. I would guitar, everything sounded better, I feel like, with this kind of wide Q or sharp Q boost there. I almost wonder if you would be better off doing that instead of going hunting and looking at, okay, my bass and my guitars. It just feels warmer. It feels a little more just by boosting that on the stereo bus is what I'm getting at. So this EQ right here on the stereo bus to taste, maybe you like half a dB, maybe you like 2 dB, I don't know. Experiment with that one and see what you come up with there. Let me look at my phone. There we go. So missing some of that warmth in the 100 to 400. The vocal needs some of that 1 to 3K. I think it's more the 1K. Sounded really good on it just in that situation. So 1K and then reference the vocal level here. Look at the reference track, yeah, the Ines Mona. It's just more forward, and that's all it is 1K. It's that little bit of that tilt there. So 1K-ish, feel it out on the lead vocal, pull that forward, and I think it's gonna pop. It's gonna help it cut through a little bit better as well. Especially with you going in and manipulating the guitar EQ, definitely do that in context. The breakdown out here, moving kind of quick, so hopefully you don't, you're not mad at me for how quick I'm talking here. The breakdown, a couple of things. Now, the band may have created the flams. If so, totally cool. The flam where one snare the stick hits and then the second one hits right after. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that term. I'm sure you are. But out here, if you listen to the reference, it's not flamming. So I don't know if maybe this band just did it a little different. There's a great example of where the kick and the click is dominating, is cutting way forward compared to the snare. And then listen to theirs. It's the opposite. Their snare is louder than their kick, especially the kick click. But back to yours, take a listen. If you may check, maybe it's flaming because the trigger's levels, or I don't know, maybe they did flam, totally cool. That's not even my main criticism here. My main thought at this section is that listen to theirs, it cleans up. Look at the difference in the waveform there. It like shrinks, right? The whole song just collapses and becomes this little riff, little licks. So that when it comes back in, it's like in your face. Whereas yours, listen to yours coming back in. Still got some energy, but yours doesn't collapse as much. And you can see that very evident in the waveform there. So what I'd love to see you do there is limit how much bottom end. Let's get more mid-range in those, the licks. I don't know, what are those, dobro? I don't know what the instrument is, if it's just acoustics. Yeah, some 1K, 3K, this kind of range here. Feel that out, listen to the reference, and get that up, but then also restrict how big things are there. Listen to that and try to steal some inspiration for how small that gets. Pull those licks in some as well so that the song kind of collapses before then it expands and explodes again. A couple ideas there. So let me see, what do we have? Well, I pull up my notes. How do you like the new screen? Nice black with new lighting. Got to adjust the color a little bit. I look like Casper. But the next note is to feature those licks more mid-range. Dude, those are my notes. I hope you dig it, man. Feel free, hit me back. Like always, we seem to connect well on that Facebook Messenger. So if you get this and you're like, hey, you're an idiot, my low end, the punch, whatever, man. Let's talk. But I would love to hear a revised mix, man. Please send me the revised mix. Would love to hear and compare that to what you've got here. And great stuff, man. Again, I feel like your mix, aside from the mid-range missing in the guitars and the vocal and the super sizzly stuff up top, aside from those two main things, your mix is better than these other mixes. Now, I know yours is, I level match, so theirs is louder, but who cares about that? I feel like you've got a better mix, and if you hit these notes like I just mentioned here, tweak them to your taste, I think you blow those mixes away, man. You've got an incredible thing going on here. So a couple of tweaks, maybe just some tired ears of the kick click and stuff like that, the brightness. But I would love to see you fix that. Send it back to me, and I can't wait to hear what you think, man. So we'll talk soon. See you, bro.